Hi, hello everybody, I'm Justin and this is Koopa. Welcome to Koopa's Corner. Today we're going to talk about WWE's premium live event, SummerSlam. SummerSlam just happened and this is my post-show breakdown. SummerSlam was absolutely huge this year. 2 nights, a ton of big matches, ton of big moments. So let's just jump right on in and start breaking it down. Alright, so night one starts with this big tag team match. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. This match was hard-hitting. This match was explosive. There was this giant leaping shoulder tackle from Braun Breaker to Roman on the outside. Huge moment. It started off at a decent pace. It ramped up well the whole time. This was a pretty good match. The finish kind of was logical to the storytelling, right? Paul Heyman was trying to plant these seeds of doubt in Jay's mind about what has Roman Reigns ever done for you. Roman Reigns took the bullet so Jay could get the pin and win for his team. So, it's logical storytelling. I question it a little bit because Jey Uso is not on the level of Roman Reigns, and Roman probably should have been the one to get the pin, right? He's the bigger star, and he just, I don't know, having Bronson eat the pin to a guy like Jay and kind of ruining that whole story that they had going on the side there wasn't my favorite thing, but it made sense narratively. So that was a pretty good way to kick off SummerSlam, right? Your biggest stars. Cole mentioned at one point it's the first time Roman Reigns had opened a match instead of main eventing it in a couple of years at least. I mean, I don't remember what he said, but it was like a crazy, like, oh, holy shit moment, right? Where you're like, damn, it's really been Roman's show. Probably at least since COVID, right? Next up, it was the Women's Tag Team Championship match. Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair against the Judgement Day. And they had a moment where there was a big miscommunication. Bliss just blasts Charlotte. And I think that was some nice foreshadowing. That's probably going to ultimately happen maybe a couple times. Or it's going to at least play into their breakup down the road. It's kind of, even if it doesn't refer back to this, something like that, because again, they are not friends, right? That's part of the whole story. So they don't have that chemistry. It's all about them kind of growing and getting there. So narratively it worked. New champs as well. Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, new tag team champions. Great title change. I think there's a lot more meat on the bone for that story than there is still with the Judgment Day. And well, Raquel was teaming with Roxanne as a substitute for Liv while she was injured, and it ultimately, Roxanne and Raquel, they lost the titles without Liv there. Liv's titles without Liv there. So it really opens up the door for that whole, how does Liv Morgan respond, right, when she returns? It's going to fuel that narrative as well. So from a storytelling perspective, this worked on multiple levels. So I like this one. I like this tag team match. Alright, next up there was a backstage segment I normally wouldn't mention, but they were shilling Papa John's pizzas. One, the product placement has gotten absurd. And it's throughout the entire event. I mean, moving forward, there's just so many moments that are ruined because of product placement. And they're over the top. I mean, over the top. It's one thing to have some sponsorships and to have some advertisements. They've always had that. It has gotten to the point where it is so distracting from everything that's going on. And I also wanted to mention this segment because it is absolutely wild to me that Nikki Bella just had this huge return to be thrown into a battle royal and then not even make it onto the SummerSlam card to do nothing but shill out Papa John's pizza. A name as big as Nikki Bella. Now, I know she was starting a feud with Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan got hurt. They really had nothing to pivot her to. They really had nothing to pivot a name like Nikki Bella. Nothing to pivot her to. Why did she return? To get thrown out fourth in a battle royal and shell out some Papa John pizza. it kind of felt dumb, to be honest. I mean, it was just a quick little backstage segment, but it jumped out at me. I wanted to mention it. Then we had Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross. This was a relatively quick match. There was one moment where Scarlett was trying to convince Sami to go ahead, use that pipe, use it on Karrion, embrace your dark side. I thought that was a fun moment. It was nice to see Scarlett involved as well, because she kind of usually just sits on the outside. She's not really involved much, but, I thought that was a nice moment of, she's okay with Karrion getting hit by the pipe if it means Sami Zayn embraces his dark side, right? You lose the battle, you win the war. And that was a very cerebral moment, I thought. I liked it. The crowd was surprisingly behind Karrion Kross here as well. I mean, Sami Zayn's a popular guy, and a chunk of the crowd was behind him, but a much bigger part of the crowd was for Karrion, and that was a little bit surprising for me. Love to see it. Love to see all of his hard work paying off like this and starting to get reactions from the people. We had the women's WWE Women's Championship match next. It was Tiffany Stratton versus Jade, Cargill. There was one moment where Tiffany Stratton did the Swanton Bomb, and it was one of the most beautiful Swanton Bombs I've ever seen. It was executed perfectly. Huge moment. This match was also pretty quick, a little bit on the quick side. A huge, shocking victory for Tiffany Stratton. It's this absolutely terrible for Jade Cargill. This aura that she had in the beginning is kind of gone. This loss, I feel like it derails a lot of her momentum. They brought her in. They didn't let her compete in NXT or to train. They put her in a tag team match. Then she was gone for months. Then she feuded with not even with her tag team partner. She feuded with the third wheel. Only finally wins Queen of the Ring. Finally looks like she's going to break out and do this big thing. And she just eats a clean loss here to Tiffany Stratton. I mean, they have done everything in their power to book her as poorly as they can, and it is now reflecting that they don't see that in her, that star power in her that she had when she signed. Because she really should have been the next big thing. Like, she had all the aura in the world, and that's just gone. That being said, I mean, this was a huge, huge victory for Tiffany Stratton. She's having a hell of a 2025. She is poised to be Superstar of the Year. Like, I mean, is she as big as, like, a Rhea Ripley? No, but, like, her win-loss record is spotless, and she is just knocking them out, man. Slow and steady. She is performance after performance after performance. And she's doing a great job. Right, so then we had the tag team match, Randy Orton and Jellyroll. It was versus Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul. I fully expected Jellyroll to sit on the apron while Orton took a beating, get a hot tag in late, hit a couple choke slams, 1, 2, 3, send him home. It's not what happened. Jellyroll was in. He was in for a long time. He took a beating. He sold. Shockingly, I mean, he hit some offense, but to be fair, his offense was him just kind of standing there while Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre hit the ropes and ran into him, right? His offense, they made it look good, they made it look explosive, but he wasn't really moving around or doing much. I don't want to give him too much credit. I'm giving him credit, a lot more credit than I expected him to have earned prior to the event, right? He was in there, he did a lot better than I expected. He spent a lot more time in there than I expected. But he's still a celebrity. He still doesn't do this all the time. You could still tell it was his first match. He was in there with 3 of the best. They made him look good. Right? He got the hot tag to Orton. Then he got tagged back in. There was a lot of back and forth. Logan Paul eventually picked up the W. Another shocking outcome here. But I think it was the right outcome, right? This does a lot more to elevate Logan and Drew than it would have to give Jellyroll the W. Honestly, he doesn't need it. He's not going to be around to capitalize on it. My only gripe is I'm not a huge Logan Paul fan. I'm a huge Drew McIntyre fan. I think Drew McIntyre should have gotten the pin because I think that could have potentially elevated him into the world title picture. Right? But we'll see what happens. Alright, then it was the main event. It was Punk versus Gunther. Long match. This one was a long match. Another hard-hitting one. Shocking moment where, I mean, Gunther just busted open and bleeding like hell. I mean, coincidence, or was he bleeding? Which is something they don't do anymore. Something they haven't done in a long time. I mean, I guess Cody's done it once or twice. They use it very sparingly, but you just don't expect it. It's terrible practice. If somebody gets busted open, they get busted open. It happens, but that didn't look like it. Looked like he forced it. And, it built and it built, and Punk overcame. They did a good job. It was a decent match. He got the W, 1, 2, 3. New World Heavyweight Champion for 5 minutes because we got a cash in, guys. Turns out that injury was not legitimate. Right? We were questioning it in our preview and predictions. We sort of gave Seth the benefit of the doubt. You would hope they wouldn't lie about something quite like that, but they didn't. And Seth was, he was not really injured. He was able to cash in, and we got a new champ again. So Seth Rollins is returned. He's back to lead the group. He's back with the title. He's kicked off a huge feud with CM Punk because he kept his word that as long as he was around, Punk would never hold that title again. And Punk won it, and he took it right from him. So he kept his word. So huge implications, huge storytelling potential going forward. Great way to cap off night 1. Then we jump over to night 2. It opened with the triple threat match, Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, and Naomi. This one, again, the pacing was really good. It built really well. It ramped up appropriately. These guys are just so good, man. And they did a great job here. Not as strong as the triple threat at WrestleMania, but Naomi is no Bianca Belair. Right? Logically, it probably makes sense that Naomi retained. I don't like it. I don't like Naomi. I think she's more of a caricature than a character. So disappointing. Very disappointing to see her retain. But she just won the title. And the other two have both had it before her. So rather than hot potato it right back, it just didn't make a lot of sense. So Naomi is now awaiting a date with Stephanie Vaquer in Paris. Right, then from there we get the TLC match. They showed the Hardys and the Dudleys in the crowd. That was awesome. There's a lot to say about this match. This match was chaos, absolute chaos. There were way too many people, and there was a ton of outside interference. And a lot of the stunts that they did were absolutely crazy. Just insane athleticism, huge innovation. I mean, this really went above and beyond with the different kind of stunts that they did. The problem is that they didn't really transition well. This didn't feel like one cohesive match. It felt like a stunt, and then you waited for everyone to get in position for the next stunt. And then you waited for everyone to get in position for the next stunt. I mean, another great example of this was Candice LeRae, when Candice LeRae interfered. She's up in the top of the ladder. She had like 2 solid minutes where she could have pulled the titles down and handed them over to Johnny and Tommaso. Instead, she's waiting for, Montez Ford to get in position for the stunt so she could be thrown off. She had so much time. And it felt like that frequently throughout the match. So that really hurt this. Because otherwise, it was a ton of fun. Just absolutely crazy stuff going on. What can you say? The Wyatts retained, which was probably the right decision. Right? By the way, they announced that the Wyatt 6 were going to be the focus of one of the haunted houses at Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios, Orlando, Florida. That is going to be legit creepy. like the Wyatt Six, this is going to be, like, there's probably not a better collaboration in all of WWE than taking the Wyatts and putting them in a haunted house. I thought that was neat. I thought that was a fun moment, right? That's going to be really cool, especially if you're into that kind of stuff, right? All right, but moving on. Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria. This was no DQ. I didn't know this was going to be no DQ. I don't remember that in the build. I don't remember them announcing that or advertising that. But that marks 3 matches in a row where there's been some sort of no disqualification, TLC, no disqualification, some sort of weird stipulation here, right? Particularly at an event where the main event was advertised to have one. It's a bit of a surprising move for them. This match went long. It was brutal. Some really big moments. I mean, they had Becky hang Lyra from the corner and go to town with a kendo stick. Lyra ended up with her hands zip tied for that spot to happen. There was a moment where Becky just put her in the steel chair and threw her around. That looked brutal. That was rough. There was some interference with Bayley getting involved, playing a big part in the story. All in all, this match was really good, but there was just one moment that killed this whole thing. And, Lyra got her hand free from the zip tie on accident. She wasn't supposed to, so she shoved it right back in there. Some people might commend her for that. She just went right back to it. To me, it was distracting. It made her look dumb. It made her look, like, why would you shove your hand back in there? It really takes you out of the moment, right? We all know, especially this week with WWE Unreal coming out, we know it's a performance art and not real fighting, but the beauty of the art is getting lost in the moment, and shit like that takes you out of the moment. That's a huge, huge botch. Lyra fucked up, right? And honestly, it killed this whole match. It was a great match otherwise. That one moment was just so stupid, so asinine. They really couldn't have just pivoted in a different kind of way where, like, she gets up and Becky shoves it back in there to her dismay. That little tweak could have saved everything. Very disappointed in that one moment, the way that played out. Steel cage match. Here we go. Match number 4 with a stipulation on night 2. A very similar stipulation. This one was really short. These two guys don't have a lot of chemistry. A lot of interference. Jimmy Uso comes out only to, get taken out immediately by the biggest guy out there. Like, wouldn't he have known? Isn't that why he ran out in the first place? Right? And then there was interference where they both got hit in the head, but Jacob fell back in the ring and Solo fell out of the ring at the door, with the door, kick to the door. So Solo wins, Solo retains. But the match itself, not particularly great. Not particularly great at all. Then we had AJ Styles and Dirty Dom. This was much better, much, much better than the previous bout. These two guys did have a lot of chemistry. They paid a ton of homage to Eddie Guerrero and to Dom's 20-year, veteran status, his 20-year anniversary. From the entrances to the ring gear to the finish where Dom slipped out of his boot straight out of WrestleMania 20. This was very solid all the way around. Love to see it. Love to see more stuff like this. The one and only match tonight that didn't have a weird stipulation. They focused on wrestling and they wrestled a great match, and that made it stand out. Not having a stipulation made it stand out. It was great. It was great. And then that takes us to the main event, John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. Leading into this, John Cena just sort of dropped being a heel. I expected that to be part of the ruse for him to, kick Cody below the belt halfway through the match. Never happened. He was a good guy through and through. And he lost the championship because of it, right? His whole heel turn sort of wasn't great, right? It started off as part of this big story with The Rock, and then The Rock just never came back. So they had to sort of pivot. And it wasn't the strongest heel turn, or this heel run in company history, right? Only for him to decide to be a good guy and lose it on his first match as a good guy. Proving that he was right to have turned heel, because the John Cena that has been losing for the past 5 years returned tonight, and surprise, surprise, he lost. Cody was the one who was acting heelish, but this isn't the first time he's done that. I've talked about it in several of my videos. Oh, Cody did some stuff there that's head-scratching. That's heel behavior. Right, and he calls himself, a pure white meat babyface, but he hit a pile driver. Right? Like, he was involved in a story this year with Kevin Owens about being hit with a pile driver. Why would, it just doesn't make sense for him, the good guy, to go there. Right? But the street fight gimmick, they ran with it, they made it feel different. There were so many matches with similar stipulations on this night of the event, and they really made this feel different. They made it feel brutal. It stood out. It was above and beyond. They did a great job. John Cena looked great. This was a fun match. It felt like a really proper farewell for Cena, even though it's not his last match. He's got a few more months, a few more appearances, right? And we know his next feud because after the match, there was a big return. Brock Lesnar. My mind was blown. In the post-show they were talking about, oh, no one saw that coming, like they were bragging about it. No shit, no one saw that coming. No one saw that coming because he was accused of sex crimes, and you cut ties with him. For a trial that's not even been resolved yet. No, of course nobody saw that coming. It shouldn't be surprising, though, given that Triple H was just in the White House this week with another, we look the other way for sex crimes, apparently, in the WWE, right? I know for a fact at least 1 to 2 to 3 of their referees have engaged in sexual misconduct, right? They don't care about this kind of shit. And the WWE Universe seems pretty on board with it too. Hogan comes out in his last appearance ever before he dies. He gets booed out of the fucking building, right? On the Netflix debut, Hogan gets booed out of the fucking building. We have a problem with racism. We don't have a problem with sex crimes. Lesnar's back. The crowd lost their mind. And now we're going to be building towards Lesnar versus Cena. Because of the Lesnar return, it made even less sense for John Cena to turn babyface again. It made even less sense for him to have lost the title. He should have beaten Cody. He should have shocked everybody, beaten Cody. He should have, pulled the ruse and, gave Cody the low blow halfway through the match. And, oh, John Cena didn't change his ways. He didn't change his ways. He's going to do it. He's going to ruin wrestling. He's going to kill the business. He's going to take the championship with him. He beat Cody. Who's left? How can we stop him? There's one man. But it's like selling your soul to the devil. Doesn't matter. Call him. That's how it should have played out. That's how we should have gotten Lesnar back, if you have to get Lesnar back. And that would have at least fit narratively. And instead his heel turn, which wasn't great to begin with, ended on a whimper rather than a bang. And now we have to deal with the fact that Lesnar's back. So all in all, it was actually a fun night of wrestling, even better than the first night. Tons of crazy gimmick matches, tons of crazy stipulations, tons of crazy moments, and it ended, on such a disappointing, sour note. So, what can you do? That's the WWE for you sometimes. Overall, there was definitely more good than bad. I'm not trying to knock the event, but it is what it is, I can't say that I'm personally a fan. I can't say I personally would have done it myself, right? I think no one expected it because no one else in their right mind would have brought him back while he was, actively being accused of sex crimes. But I don't think that shock is always a good thing, right? Anyway, that's what I thought of SummerSlam, guys. Let me know in the comments. What'd you think? What was your favorite match? That's what I want to know. Tons of great stuff here. What was your favorite match? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.